Excellennial here with another story-based Excel tutorial, and today I'm going to be talking with you about Luke the Woodworker. Now, Luke has a list of recent transactions, and he wants to group the purchases into pricing buckets. He'd like to see how many transactions were between $50 to $60, $60 to $70, and so on. To do this, we're going to use the IFS function. Alright, so as you can see here, this is his list of transaction numbers, how much money was actually billed to his customer, and then the billed range. This is the information that we're actually going to put in. The first one's already programmed, as you can see, so I can give you a proper example, but I'm going to fill in the entire column as well. So what we have here is a billed to customer amount of $47.91, which is in between $45 to $50. So what we're going to do here is actually break down how we programmed that and how we help this function to determine that for all of these different price ranges. As you can see, this spreadsheet goes on for a little while, so we want to be sure that we have the function programmed to take into consideration a lot of variables. This area right here shows you how this function is actually written out and how we're going to be programming it. So I'm going to restart this here, delete that, and type in equal ifs. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up 4 different logical tests. As you can see here, that's what the ifs function is requesting. The logical test is going to be the amount of money that is displayed in a certain cell, and if it matches a certain parameter, then we are actually going to set it to say a certain pricing bucket. So for this very first section, what we're going to do is we're actually going to tell it if B2 is greater than 60, we are going to make it say something in response to that. So that's the logical test. If B2 is greater than 60. So comma, that's the logical test. Now, what is going to display if that logical test is true? If the data does in fact show more than $60, greater than $60. What we're going to do is we're going to have it display a certain amount of text. So we're going to put this in quotation marks, and then it'll be $60 $70 quotation mark. That is what we want it to display if the billed to customer is greater than 60. That is our first logical test. Now we're going to follow up with more logical tests to make sure that we cover all of the parameters. We know that the highest price on this list is not over 70, but we also know that a lot of these prices on here, a lot of the amounts that were billed to the customer are under 60. So what we're going to do is add an additional logical test. This is going to be, again, selecting cell B2 because all of our functions are going to be on the same row. We have cell C2 that is being programmed right now with this function, focusing on cell B2. When we add this function to the rest of the rows, it's going to update so they're all working with the same row. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second when we're done programming this. So we're going to focus on cell B2 in this case. Our next logical test is that B2 is greater than 50. There's a comma there because we're done setting the logical test. But now we want it to say, quote, $50 $60, quote, and then end that logical test. So that's the logical test 2. If the information in cell B2 is greater than $50, then it goes in the $50 to $60 billed range bucket. Now, that still doesn't even cover the $47.91 that we have in this cell, so we still have more parameters we need to add. Logical test number 3 is going to be if B2 is greater than $45, comma, then add the quotation mark, $45 $50, quotation mark, then close that out. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the final one, which is for items that are priced even lower than the cell B2 that we have right here. So again, now that we're starting logical test number 4, we're going to select B2 greater than 35, comma, and the value if true is, quote, $35 $44, since we already have something that covers $45, quotation mark, and close with the end parenthesis. Now what this says to Excel is to look for these specialty parameters and display a certain thing if one of them is true. In this case, the cell B2 is greater than $45. So that will display $45-50. since we do have something else in here saying that if B2 is greater than 50, since that is in the proper order, because the order does matter with this function, it actually overrides the 45. So let's go ahead and press enter so it'll show that 4550 display. What I mean by it will override is what Excel does is it goes through all of these in order. So it looks at cell B2 and says, is this greater than 60? No. Okay, let's ignore if that's true. Is it greater than 50? No. Okay, well then we're going to ignore this. Is it greater than 45? Yes. Okay, we're going to program this. And then it stops processing the rest of the logical tests, because it is also over 35. So let's say that we actually program this backwards. Let's say that we instead programmed it to say, if it's over 60, display 60 to 70. If it's over 50, display 50 to 60. If it's over 35, display 35 to 44. And if it's over 5, display 45 to 50. Now what's going to happen is it's going to go over all of these in that same order. If it's over 60, it'll be this. It's not over 60. If it's over 50, it'll be this. And if it's over 35, it'll be this. It's going to stop there because this build to customer in B2 is over 35. So it's going to stop at that and tell us that it's in that 35 to 44 range. That's not true because it's out of order. So that's why we actually have this in the very specific order saying if it's greater than 45 first. That's why we have it in that very specific order. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that really quick. That's something to always keep in mind. You want to be sure that you remember that when Excel is programmed with a function in this manner, it goes in the order that you write it. So now we're going to click the little square here, double click that down, and it's going to fill in everything else. And this is where I was talking about how it will update according to the row. You can see in cell C2 up here in the formula bar, all of these say B2. But if you go to C2, you can see that in the formula bar, all of the items here have been updated to B3. So everything is analyzing the data on that same row. All of the functions are updated to only look at the data according to that same row. So that keeps things really simple in terms of double clicking that little button in the corner and dropping the function down into all of the cells. Now we can see all of these items are in the $35 to $44 range. All of these items are in the $45 to $50 range. And these are 50 to 60. And these are 60 to 70. Although this took a little bit of time to actually type out this entire function, this is exactly what Luke needed because it told him the exact data of what he was looking for and easily displays all of the information just by showing all of the different buckets of information. Now, the one other thing that we could do here as well, if he wanted to keep the data, is also copy and paste that column that has all the formulas in it or all the functions in it, copy and paste it with values. I'll leave a link in the description to show you how to do that from a video with Nathan the Novice. If you have any questions about this process, please leave a comment in the section below. And until next time, have fun excelling.